Hi, this is Ralph from ECS Tuning. Today we're going to show you how to change the fluid and filter in a 2001 BMW 525i automatic transmission. Now some people are going to try to tell you that you never have to change this fluid. We beg to differ, and so does ZF, the manufacturer of the transmission. We're going to show you everything you need from materials to tools, including a special procedure that will let you measure the transmission fluid temperature even if you don't have the BMW scan tool interface. Don't run off, this is going to be a good installation.
Here are the tools we used for this job. A digital thermometer with long flexible temperature probe, a level, scrapers to remove the old pan gasket, a ratchet and extension, a T27 Torx driver, 6 and 8 mm hex drivers, a Schwaben 3/8" torque wrench, and a Motive fluid transfer pump. Start with the transmission cold. 30 degrees Celsius or less is recommended. The transmission must be level. The oil pan on this ZF is tapered toward the drain, so place your level on the lip of the oil pan parallel to the base of the transmission, as we're doing here. You'll see why this is so important when we start adding fresh fluid. With the car raised, locate the colored sticker on the pan. Several colors have been used on different applications over the years. The sticker color identifies the transmission by type, and it has information on it about the correct fluid and fluid temperatures. Take this seriously. Using the wrong fluid will cause big problems. If the sticker is damaged, illegible, covered with tar, or missing, there should be a second metal identification plate riveted to the rear of the transmission body near the fill plug. To begin, crack the fill plug loose using an 8 mm hex head driver and a long-handled ratchet or breaker bar. Do this first. We don't want to drain the transmission and then find out we can't refill it. Next, take a 6 mm hex and remove the transmission drain plug. Drain the fluid into a pan and save it for proper recycling. Using a T27 Torx, start loosening the pan bolts. Work your way around the perimeter of the pan. Loosen the bolts so the pan tips downward slightly toward the drain to remove as much fluid as possible through the drain hole. Remove all the bolts, then drop the oil pan. There are several magnets inside the pan to attract tiny iron particles that might escape the filter. Expect to find a gray residue inside the pan and a gray paste covering all of the magnets. Remove the magnets and wash inside the pan. Wipe everything clean, then blow the pan dry with compressed air. Wipe the magnets until they are clean, then place them back into the pan in their original locations. Cover the pan and lay it aside for now. Now use your Torx driver to loosen and remove the 2 filter attachment screws holding the filter to the valve body. With the screws removed, rotate the filter slightly from side to side and pull down to remove it. The circular seal at the filter tube is likely to stick in the fluid inlet, so take a small screwdriver or pick and pry it out. Just be careful not to damage the metal hole where the seal sits in the transmission. Next, remove the old pan gasket. Lightly lube the seal on the new filter with clean transmission fluid. Now install the new filter and tighten the 2 filter attachment screws. Next, place the pan gasket on the oil pan. No additional sealer is recommended. Do not use gobs of sealer from a tube. Even a small glob of sealer will cause huge problems if it gets into an internal fluid passage. Replace the pan, being careful to keep the holes in the gasket aligned with the holes in the pan. If you are using the old bolts, a drop of medium strength thread sealer is a worthwhile precaution. Hand tighten the attachment screws. Now it's time to refill the transmission. Add fluid to the transmission until it just starts to drip from the fill hole. Start the engine, place your foot on the brake, and move the gear selector lever from park to each gear, pausing for 3 to 5 seconds at each gear before returning the selector lever to park. This fills the transmission internal cavities and passages with fresh fluid. Continue adding fluid through the fill hole. Add fluid until it starts dripping from the fill hole again at a temperature somewhere between 30 and 50 degrees Celsius. Just remember that the transmission temperature should never get hotter than 50 degrees Celsius when the fluid starts running out the fill hole. Here we've added most of the fluid in the kit, and our fluid temperature is comfortably between the minimum and maximum temperature limits. Fluid is dribbling slowly from the fill hole. It's time to replace the fill plug and torque it. Aside from a test drive, we're done. Here are 2 containers, one with the old discolored fluid and a second with the ruby red fresh fluid. Ask yourself, which would you rather have in your expensive transmission?
Well, that pretty much wraps up our ZF fluid filter change. Now, we hope you've seen that this is not an extremely complicated procedure. If you don't have access to a dedicated digital thermometer like the one we use during this procedure, you can use a digital multimeter with a temperature function and get the same results. Thanks for joining us.
Visit ECStuning.com, where you'll find everything you need to service the automatic transmission in your BMW.